Welcome back, basketball fans, to what might just be the most explosive, reality-altering, and fundamentally shocking day of the modern NBA offseason. We are standing at the epicenter of a basketball earthquake, and the aftershocks are going to be felt from the Pacific Northwest all the way to the Atlantic coast. Today, we are breaking down a series of blockbuster developments that have completely rewritten the script for the upcoming season, shifting the tectonic plates of the league in ways that absolutely no one, not even the most plugged-in insiders, saw coming. You think you know how this league works? You think you understand the timeline of rebuilding franchises and the closing windows of aging dynasties? Throw all that out the window, because today, the rule book has been burned to ashes. We are looking at a monumental, paradigm-shifting trade that sends Morant to the Portland Trail Blazers, a mind-bending sacrifice by Draymond Green to align his destiny with LeBron James, and a fascinating strategic pivot that forces us to say, let's go back to Toronto. Let us start with the sheer magnitude of what has just transpired in the Western Conference. The Memphis Grizzlies, after a 7-year roller coaster ride filled with breathtaking highlights, deep playoff runs, off-court turmoil, and agonizingly premature playoff exits, have finally pulled the plug on the Ja Morant era. Let that sink in for a moment. A player who was once viewed as the untouchable face of the franchise, the dynamic engine of a gritty, next-generation contender, has been shipped off to the Portland Trail Blazers. The reported return? Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray. On the surface, this feels like an absolute daylight robbery by the Portland front office, a jackpot of epic proportions. But to truly understand the gravity of this move, we have to peel back the layers of frustration, the fractured trust, and the desperate need for a cultural reset in Memphis. For Portland, this is a gamble of historic proportions. It is a franchise that has spent the last few years wandering in the post-Damian Lillard wilderness, desperately searching for a new identity, a new North Star, and a reason for a passionate fan base to believe again. They have just acquired one of the most electrifying talents to ever step onto a basketball court, a singular force of nature who can single-handedly alter the trajectory of a game. But they are also taking on all the baggage, all the question marks, and all the immense pressure that comes with the Ja Morant experience. Simultaneously, while the Pacific Northwest is celebrating this unbelievable acquisition, the California basketball landscape is undergoing its own seismic transformation. We have been hearing whispers for months, but the reality is finally taking shape. Draymond Green, the beating heart, the vocal leader and the defensive anchor of the Golden State Warriors dynasty, is making a monumental personal and financial sacrifice to team up with LeBron James. This is not just a free agency rumor. This is a calculated, deliberate maneuvering by two of the greatest basketball minds of this generation to join forces in the twilight of their careers. For Draymond, a man whose entire identity is intertwined with the Bay Area and the Stephen Curry era, to willingly walk away from that, to leave money on the table, and to embrace a completely new challenge alongside his longtime rival-turned-close friend, speaks volumes about the shifting priorities of these aging legends. It is a desperate, brilliant, and incredibly risky all-in push for one final championship ring. It forces us to ask massive questions about the future of the Golden State Warriors, the immense gravity of LeBron James, and the lengths to which these historical icons will go to conquer the league one last time. And as if these two colossal storylines were not enough to process, we are going to tie all of this back to a crucial historical precedent and a current organizational philosophy by looking up north. Yes, we're going to go back to Toronto. Why Toronto? Because the Raptors represent the ultimate blueprint for the high-stakes, all-or-nothing gambles that Portland and these veteran stars are currently taking. We need to revisit how the Raptors navigated their own crossroads, how they calculated risk versus reward, and how their past decisions and current assets are silently influencing the massive trades we are seeing today. The NBA is a deeply interconnected ecosystem. A trade in Memphis sends ripples to Portland, which affects the balance of power in the West, which in turn accelerates the urgency for veterans like LeBron and Draymond, which ultimately impacts teams like Toronto, who are waiting in the wings to capitalize on the chaos. Let's stay on this massive summary for a moment because the context here is absolutely vital. You have to understand that the NBA is no longer a league of patience. The days of 5-year rebuilding plans and trusting the process are being aggressively phased out by front offices that are terrified of irrelevance. When a talent like Ja Morant becomes available, You do not check your long-term salary cap projections. You do whatever it takes to get him in your building. Portland realized this. They looked at their roster, they looked at their timeline, and they understood that you do not get to draft a superstar every year. Sometimes, the universe hands you a distressed asset, a falling star that just needs a new atmosphere to shine brightly again. The Trail Blazers are betting their entire franchise future on the idea that the Pacific Northwest can be the sanctuary that Ja Morant desperately needs. They are betting that the change of scenery, the removal of the Memphis pressure cooker, and the embrace of a fan base that treats its stars like absolute royalty will be the ultimate remedy for Morant's recent struggles. On the other side of this transaction, you have the Memphis Grizzlies, a franchise that is effectively admitting defeat. It is a sobering, bitter pill to swallow for a front office that built a 50-win juggernaut largely through brilliant drafting and development. Giving up Ja Morant for a package centered around Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray is not about getting equal value on the basketball court. It is about reclaiming their peace of mind. It is about a front office and a coaching staff that simply can no longer endure the constant anxiety, the off-court headlines, and the structural instability that Morant's situation brought to the locker room. Jeremy Grant brings stability, elite two-way play, and veteran professionalism. He will slot perfectly next to Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane, creating a defensively terrifying frontcourt. But let's not mince words here. You do not win NBA championships by trading away a generational offensive engine for solid, dependable role players. Memphis is banking on a culture of collective responsibility, hoping that the sum of their parts will somehow equal the blinding brilliance they just traded away. And then there is the LeBron and Draymond situation. If you had told me 5 years ago that Draymond Green would willingly sacrifice his financial security and his legendary status in Golden State to put on the same jersey as LeBron James, I would have called you crazy. These two have battled in some of the most intense, blood-boiling NBA Finals matchups in the history of the sport. They have talked trash, they have committed hard fouls, and they have represented two completely opposite basketball philosophies. But time changes everything in this league. Time humbles even the fiercest competitors, and creates strange bedfellows. LeBron James knows his championship window is not just closing. It is a sliver of light slipping through the cracks of a heavy door. He needs high IQ, battle-tested warriors who do not care about individual statistics, who only care about making the right read, playing ferocious defense, and doing the dirty work. There is no one on the planet who fits that description better than Draymond Green. Draymond's sacrifice is a testament to the intoxicating allure of playing alongside LeBron, and is a stark admission that the magic in Golden State has finally, irreversibly faded. This entire landscape, this chaotic reshuffling of the deck, requires a deep analytical breakdown. We are not just going to read the headlines today. We are going to put these moves under the microscope. We are going to analyze the tactical fit of Ja Morant and Chauncey Billups' system, or whoever is steering the ship in Portland. We are going to dissect the salary cap gymnastics and the on-court synergy of a LeBron and Draymond pairing. And we are going to connect the dots back to the Toronto Raptors to understand the hidden mechanics of how these mega deals actually get done. So, buckle up, grab your notepads, and let us dive straight into the deep end of the most fascinating NBA offseason we've seen in years. Welcome to the Deep Dive Analysis. Let us begin by breaking down what I am calling the Portland Jackpot. When the news broke that the Trail Blazers had acquired Ja Morant for Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, the immediate reaction across the basketball world was pure, unadulterated shock. How does a player with MVP potential get moved for what amounts to a solid starter and a developmental prospect? To understand this, we have to look at the unique economy of NBA superstars in crisis. The market for Ja Morant had completely dried up. Teams were terrified of the potential PR fallout, the risk of future suspensions, and the sheer unpredictability of his availability. Memphis was negotiating from a place of immense weakness, and Portland general manager Joe Cronin recognized a distressed asset when he saw one. Tactically, bringing Ja Morant to Portland is a fascinating experiment. The Blazers have been trying to build a new identity around their young core, specifically Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. Now, you introduce one of the most ball-dominant, relentlessly attacking point guards in the league. On paper, it seems like a logjam. Morant and Henderson are both players who need the ball in their hands to be effective, Both thrive on downhill penetration, and both have struggled with consistent outside shooting. But talent usually figures it out. If Portland can stagger their minutes, or if Henderson is willing to adapt to a secondary playmaking role, you suddenly have a backcourt with unmatched athleticism and explosiveness. Defenses will not be able to catch their breath. When Morant goes to the bench, Henderson comes in with fresh legs, relentlessly attacking the rim. And let's not forget about DeAndre Ayton down low. Morant has never played with a traditional, highly skilled big man like Ayton. The pick-and-roll potential between Morant and Ayton is absolutely mouth-watering. Morant's ability to bend the defense and draw multiple defenders into the paint will create wide-open lobs and easy mid-range jumpers for Ayton, potentially unlocking the dominant version of the center that we have only seen in fleeting glimpses. Furthermore, we have to talk about the cultural shift in Portland. For over a decade, Damian Lillard was the unquestioned leader, the stoic, loyal face of the franchise who set a standard of professionalism. Morant brings a completely different energy. He is brash, he is loud, and he plays with a chip on his shoulder the size of Mount Hood. Portland is betting that their organization has the infrastructure to channel that fire into winning basketball. They are hoping that being surrounded by a quiet, supportive market, far away from the distractions that plague him in Memphis, will allow Morant to mature and refocus entirely on his legacy. This is not just a basketball trade. It is a psychological reclamation project. If Portland succeeds, they had just acquired a top 10 player in the league for pennies on the dollar. They will have accelerated their rebuild by 5 years and instantly made themselves a must-watch team on national television. It is the ultimate high-risk, high-reward scenario, and honestly, you have to applaud the sheer audacity of the Portland front office for pulling the trigger. Now, let us turn our attention away from the Pacific Northwest and look at the dramatic unfolding of events surrounding Draymond Green and LeBron James. The phrase Draymond sacrifices to get LeBron is loaded with implications. What exactly is being sacrificed? First and foremost, it is financial. In an era where players are commanding astronomical max contracts, Draymond Green is reportedly taking a massive pay cut, potentially signing a veteran minimum or a heavily reduced mid-level exception, just to make the salary cap math work for a team-up with LeBron. This kind of financial forfeiture is incredibly rare for a player who still possesses elite defensive value. But Draymond is a basketball savant. He understands the landscape. He knows that his unique skill set, his defensive versatility, his elite processing speed, his ability to direct traffic on both ends of the floor, is most valuable when placed next to a transcendent superstar. For years, that superstar was Stephen Curry. But as the Warriors' dynasty has slowly crumbled under the weight of age, injuries, and luxury tax bills, Draymond has clearly recognized that the sun has set in the Bay Area. Teaming up with LeBron James is the ultimate pivot. It is a merging of two of the highest basketball IQs in the history of the sport. Imagine the defensive rotations. Imagine the half-court execution. LeBron James has spent his entire career carrying the mental burden of directing his teammates, constantly pointing, shouting, and orchestrating the offense and defense. Bringing in Draymond Green alleviates that burden almost entirely. Draymond can become the vocal general of the defense, allowing LeBron to conserve his energy for crucial offensive possessions. On the offensive end, Draymond's unparalleled ability to operate in the short roll, to find cutters, and set bone-crushing screens will open up angles for LeBron that he has not seen in years. But the sacrifice goes beyond money. Draymond is sacrificing his legacy as a one-team player. He is sacrificing the comfort of a system that was perfectly tailored to hide his offensive flaws and highlight his defensive genius. He is stepping into the intense, unforgiving spotlight that follows LeBron James everywhere he goes. If this experiment fails, if they do not win a championship, Draymond will face a tidal wave of criticism for leaving Golden State and taking a pay cut for nothing. But that is exactly what makes this move so compelling. It is driven by a pure, obsessive desire to win. It is a middle finger to the critics who say they are too old, too slow, and too far past their primes. LeBron and Draymond are betting that their combined intellect, their championship pedigree, and their sheer force can overcome any physical limitations. It is going to be a cinematic narrative to watch unfold, a brilliant chess match against the younger, faster teams in the league. This brings us to the final and perhaps most intriguing piece of this complex puzzle. Let's go back to Toronto. When we analyze these massive franchise-altering gambles like Portland trading for Morant or veteran stars forcing unprecedented financial gymnastics, we have to look at the historical precedents that pave the way for this kind of aggressive team building. And no team exemplifies this better than the Toronto Raptors. Let us rewind to the summer of 2018. The Raptors were a very good team, consistently winning 50 games, consistently making the playoffs, and consistently getting their hearts broken by LeBron James. Masai Ujiri, the brilliant architect of the Raptors, realized that being very good was the worst place to be in the NBA. You are not bad enough to draft a superstar, and you are not quite good enough to win a championship. So what did he do? He traded his franchise icon, DeMar DeRozan, a player beloved by the city, for a disgruntled, injured, one-year rental named Kawhi Leonard. At the time, it was considered a massive risk. Kawhi had barely played the previous season. There were huge questions about his health, and everyone knew he wanted to go to Los Angeles. But Ujiri took the gamble, believing that the Raptors' strong medical staff, their winning culture, and the sheer talent of Kawhi Leonard could result in magic. We all know how that story ended. A dramatic playoff run, a legendary game winner against Philadelphia, and the first NBA championship in franchise history. The Raptors proved that in the NBA, fortune favors the bold. You cannot play it safe and expect to win titles. You have to be willing to push all your chips into the middle of the table, even if it means risking total organizational failure. Portland is looking at that Toronto blueprint right now. They are looking at Ja Morant as their version of the Kawhi Leonard trade. Yes, Morant comes with immense baggage and uncertainty. Yes, giving up Jeremy Grant hurts their current defensive structure. But just like Toronto realized they could never win a title with the DeRozan core, Portland realized they were going nowhere fast in the post-Lillard era. The Morant trade is Joe Cronin adopting the Masai Ujiri philosophy: acquire the transcendent talent at all costs, figure out the fit later, and trust your organizational culture to support the player. Furthermore, going back to Toronto also holds relevance for the current landscape. The Raptors, in this current timeline, are a team rich with versatile wings, solid draft capital, and a clear need to define a new direction. Whenever massive trades like the Morant deal happen, or when teams need to clear salary cap space to accommodate veteran minimums for players like Draymond Green, third teams are often required to facilitate the math. Toronto has quietly positioned themselves as the ultimate facilitators, the opportunists who can jump into a multi-team deal, absorb a bad contract for a draft pick, or send out a productive role player to a contender in exchange for young talent. We must keep our eyes firmly on the Raptors as these massive shockwaves settle, because history has shown us that when the rest of the league is in chaos, Toronto's front office is usually working quietly in the shadows, orchestrating a move that will set them up for the next decade. We are witnessing a fascinating intersection of desperation and ambition. The Memphis Grizzlies were desperate to clean up their culture, so they sacrificed a superstar. The Portland Trail Blazers were desperate for relevance, so they embraced the chaos. Draymond Green is desperate for one last ring, so he sacrifices money in his home. LeBron James is desperate to cement his legacy, so he is demanding the ultimate sacrifices from his peers. And through it all, the ghost of the Toronto Raptors' legendary gamble serve as the guiding light for every general manager who dares to dream big. This is not just basketball. This is high-stakes poker with billion-dollar franchises. The tactical adjustments, the personality clashes, and the intense pressure will make this upcoming season an absolute spectacle. How will Ja Morant respond to the quiet, rainy days in Portland? Will he find solace in the gym, or will he chafe against the expectations? How will Draymond Green and LeBron James manage the grueling 82-game schedule, preserving their bodies for a playoff run against teams 10 years younger than them? These are the questions that will define the narrative of the league. As we start to wrap up this incredibly deep dive into the shifting tectonic plates of the NBA, we have to take a step back and appreciate the absolute beauty of this chaos. The NBA is a soap opera, a strategic masterclass, an athletic showcase all rolled into one. What we have discussed today: the Portland Trail Blazers striking gold in the Ja Morant sweepstakes, Draymond Green making an unprecedented sacrifice to join forces with LeBron James, an enduring legacy of the Toronto Raptors' risk-taking philosophy. These are not just isolated events. They are interconnected chapters in a massive, unfolding epic. The upcoming season is going to be unlike anything we have seen before. The Western Conference is an absolute bloodbath. You have the defending champions trying to hold on to their crown. You have young, hungry teams like Oklahoma City and Minnesota, ready to take the next step. And now, you have these massive wild cards thrown into the mix. Can the Portland Trail Blazers actually put it all together? Can Chauncey Billups harness the raw, explosive energy of Ja Morant and mold this young roster into a cohesive playoff threat? Or will the experiment combust, leaving Portland exactly where they started, only with fewer assets and more headaches? The pressure on Morant is astronomical. He has been given a second chance, a clean slate in a city that is desperate for a hero. If he succeeds, his redemption arc will be the stuff of legend. If he fails, the narrative will write itself. And what about LeBron and Draymond? This is the ultimate test of basketball intellect over youthful exuberance. They are banking on the idea that they can outthink, out-execute, and out-tough the rest of the league. It is a beautiful, romantic notion, but it is also fraught with peril. One turned ankle, one nagging hamstring injury, and this entire grand experiment could come crashing down. But you cannot help but root for the audacity of it all. We are watching two of the defining players of our generation rage against the dying of the light, refuse and go quietly into retirement. Every game they play together will be a masterclass in positioning, communication, and sheer competitive force. Finally, never forget the lessons of Toronto. As you watch your favorite team navigate the rest of this offseason and the trade deadline next spring, remember that playing it safe rarely leads to a parade. The teams that ultimately lift the Larry O'Brien trophy are the ones who are willing to take the calculated risk, to make the uncomfortable trade, and to bet on their own culture and infrastructure. The echoes of the Kawhi Leonard trade are ringing loudly in Portland right now, and they serve as a reminder that in the modern NBA, you're either pushing all your chips to the center of the table or you are simply making up the numbers. I want to hear your thoughts on all of this, because the implications are endless. Drop down into the comments section right now and let me know who won the Ja Morant trade. Did Portland just secure their future, or did Memphis brilliantly escape a sinking ship? And what do you make of Draymond Green teaming up with LeBron James? Is this a stroke of genius that guarantees a deep playoff run, or is it a desperate move by two aging stars that will ultimately fall short? I read every single comment, and I cannot wait to see the debates you guys spark down there. If you enjoyed this deep dive, if you appreciate this level of detailed, unvarnished analysis, do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It helps the channel immensely and tells the algorithm that you want more of this deep-level basketball content. If you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We're going to be tracking every single development, every rumor, and every tactical shift as we inch closer to opening night. The NBA never sleeps, and neither do we. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your incredible support, and I will see you all in the next video.